more than 500 separate intrusions into the email accounts. We allege that the defendant leaked that information in an attempt to undermine his former colleague's ongoing legal cases. Lane's email account was accessed from the defendant's home, from the television station where he worked, and from other locations.
Should former CBS 3 News anchor Larry Mendte go to jail for hacking into his former colleagues' email accounts, as the U.S. Attorney suggests, or do you think his career seems to be ruined, that that's punishment enough? And how do you feel about Alicia Lane, the so-called target of this alleged act, now that you know that someone was relentlessly spying into her personal and professional life? If you want to tell us what you think, that is the topic of this half hour of It's Your Call. I'm Lynn Doyle. We're glad to have you with us. As you know, we've been following this case since it first emerged. Actually, we were following it when Alicia Lane, the former Philadelphia newscaster, found herself on the front page of newspapers all across the country for various acts that eventually led her to be fired. She is now suing CBS 3, and now she's somewhat feeling vindicated, according to sources who say she was right. Someone was leaking personal information. The U.S. Attorney's Office says that someone was her former coworker. If you want to tell us what you think, telephone lines are open. You can also email us or take our web poll. Let's check in and see what you think should happen to this guy. Jail time, 33% of you say yes. A heavy fine, nobody wants that. 22% say probation, and 45% say a little bit. Maybe he should have to do weekends in jail or community service of some sort. It's a non-scientific survey, but just another way that you can tell us what you think. I guess the one prevailing question that all of us have, whether you're sitting on that end of the camera or this end, is why someone, anyone, would do this kind of thing. And Robin Bond, who is an employment attorney, has her own firm, has some insight into that, not just for people who are in the television business, but employees who work together and have a little bit of professional jealousy.
Right, and you know, this is really how I believe that this probably started, you know, in terms of her contract coming up for negotiation and him wanting to know what she's getting and making sure he's getting what she's getting and getting, you know, the insights into her negotiations. But the way this happens, I mean, how do you have 537 accesses to her email? Is you start small. You know, he starts small by one intrusion, and maybe he's terrified when he has one intrusion, but he gets away with it. So he does it again, and then he gets away with that. And next thing he does it again and again and again, and now we have 547 intrusions.
And is he
that we know of
apparently intrigued or interested or mystified by what he's reading?
Well, perhaps it turns into a voyeuristic thrill at a certain point. I mean, I don't know for sure, but
manner of control or power. Let's face it, Philadelphia is a media town that doesn't have like the Hollywood or the New York, so a lot of the news anchors are looked upon as being celebrities in this town. Larry Mendte came home. He's from Lansdale. This is where he wanted to be. He's built himself up. He's been here for years. Alicia Lane comes in, threatening maybe his reputation or actually competing for the camera, let me put it that way. Maybe. This is speculation. And maybe he didn't like it. Allegedly, according to the papers, she was making more, she was getting more attention, and there's a lot of ego involved in this, Lynn.
It may have appealed to his prurient interest, it may have been a voyeuristic thing for him, but at the end of the day, the information very clearly shows that he accessed this information and then provided it to the press. That is a whole nother level. And that is a whole nother level of the lawsuit that CBS is going to have to deal with now. It's going to be devastating to them because who accessed it? An employee of CBS. And why did he do it? To create news. And whose benefit was that for? CBS.
And of course, the U.S. Attorney, acting attorney, yesterday in her press conference said that this is the information that they have available to them from the computers in 2008. She alleges, not only in her lawsuit, but among other people, that this was going on for perhaps 2 years, and all of those personal leaks about her personal life are tainted, or they go back to him. Whether that can be proven or not now, no one knows, but she's making that allegation.
But let this be a cautionary tale. If you're going to do something naughty, do not do it on the computer. Unless you're Q from James Bond and you know how to go into that computer and completely erase it, you're going to be in big trouble if you mess around on the computer. You know, stay off the computer, Grandpa Vito, okay?
I'm fascinated by this story because they're telling me that the way that he was able to do this allegedly was to install hardware or a keystroke program or something. I can barely get on my own email. I couldn't possibly figure out how to get onto someone else's.
Or have that kind of motivation to want to do it.
And 3 o'clock in the morning checking, I can barely check my own. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, when people take their right to privacy very seriously. I mean, when you look at this and you think, oh, it's just some innocuous emails, I'm telling you, what really is going to hurt Larry's brand and hurt his credibility is it's a violation. It's almost like you put a secret camera, you know, in the girls' locker room. And you know and they have no idea they're being watched. Or we see those videos sometimes where the handyman puts it in the girls' living room, and is there any physical pain? Not necessarily, but it's frightening and it's scary. And you know it is. It's an invasion of privacy. You feel violated.
And I think, Lynn, a lot of people can put themselves in that place. How would I feel if somebody had done that to me?
And you know, the other thing that I want to point out too is that the emails that apparently were hacked into were not things that were pertaining to work. It was not on the employment computer, but rather her private one. So basically, you do have a sense that if I'm on my private email, I should be able to write to you and say whatever I want. I should be able to send pictures of myself or my friends or my family without feeling that someone else is going to look at them and judge them.
Absolutely. It's the first piece of advice that most employees hear. If you're going to email spring break pictures, open up a Yahoo account. But this is one of those scary cases where she did just that, and somehow he hacked onto there. And if he did it with a key logging device, that is much more diabolical than simply sitting there and guessing at passwords.
Looking over her shoulder.
Yeah, strawberry cheesecake, no, and you keep going through, and it's much more diabolical.
With Alicia, right? I mean, it's so funny. I'm just sitting here thinking to myself how, well, you know, Rich wanted to see who else was in the photo. You mean, couldn't Rich just ask her who else was in the photo? I mean, it's really, again, it's kind of obscuring the fact that, you know, maybe you're right, nobody should be hacking into a computer, but maybe you should think twice about what you're doing, and you shouldn't be sending pictures of yourself in a bikini to somebody else who's married.
All right, on that note, let's go back to the telephone lines because a lot of people have called in and are waiting very patiently to be part of this program, including Laurie. Laurie, as we're taking a look at Alicia Lane's year in review that led up to her ultimately losing her job, tell us what you think about the whole thing.
You know, I've been listening to a lot of the conversation. I've actually been following the story quite a bit, and I would have to agree with Danny and what he has to say with regard to personal private email. Yes, Larry Mendte has done something that is invading people's privacy. Yes, he's done something that's very wrong, and he should be punished. He also, I believe, should get some counseling. I mean, this is very obsessive. Hacking into someone's email 500 times over 100 days, I mean that's quite frightening, quite frankly. And being in the professional position that he has, hacking in that many times, some counseling along with some punishment. But I would agree with Danny.
They actually said, Laurie, if I can interrupt you for a second, there are sources that are saying it could have literally been thousands over a couple of years.
That's obsessive, compulsive, and he really needs some kind of, someone needs to talk to this individual, community service, counseling, whatever the case might be, but that's a bit ridiculous.
All right. Thanks for your call, Laurie, and we appreciate it. If you want to share your thoughts, do you tell us, or you can tell us if you agree with Laurie or whether you have a different take on this. If you do, that's okay. We want to hear from you as well. Vanessa has called in. Hey, Vanessa.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
I think maybe that he had an infatuation with Alicia, and you know he probably flirted with her, and she probably just like turned him down, knowing that he was married, and he was just trying to get back at her by trying to destroy her career, you know. And the real victim here is his wife, you know, Dawn Stensland, because she's going through it. I mean, it has to be an embarrassment to her and her family, humiliation, you know. And if you look at her on the news when she does the news times, she just looks devastated, like she's not even focusing on her job. She has a blank look. But I think that's what it is. And he does need some counseling, you know, because no normal